Hello, it's April 2022, and I briefly want to talk about something. And I've shared this over the years, and I've shared low moments in my life, very low moments, just to show the human side, for example, of injustice and the results of someone's efforts, for example, whistleblowing and exposing. And it's not like in the movies or in a book or something where, happy ending, and a lot of times, most of the times, it's very tragic. Okay? And it was hard to share that kind of stuff. And I really want to specifically focus on briefly on something called post-traumatic stress, or PTS. And it's a very real thing. Now, all of us in our lives, we've encountered someone, whether it be a stranger, an acquaintance, a colleague, friends, family even, who have this. And there's different degrees to this. It could be very subtle, to say almost non-existent, to catatonic, where, people just completely shut down. And there's obviously different degrees in between there. And us as outsiders, we look in, and first we're judging people without us having it, and just saying, well, just push through it. What's wrong with you? Like, what is your brain shut off, or whatever it is that their symptoms are. And that's one issue when we're looking in on someone else. Now, when I was working, for example, in the mental health industry, of course, I ran into a lot of people, working with a lot of people who have post-traumatic stress of various degrees. And, even as a professional, when you're dealing with someone, the back of your mind, you're just, well, yeah, just get over it, move on. And not to have experienced this really since 2013, for myself, I understand. It's not an easy thing to deal with, and you can get caught up in a trap, especially when you're isolated, whether you're self-isolating, which is not healthy, or by circumstance. For example, my situation, just being in remote places, just trying to survive each day, etc. And then you start getting into this loop, which is extremely unhealthy. And I've said before, in survival situations, most of the times what is the demise of people is their own minds. And this would be one example, for example, because you start going, especially in the negativity, you can really destroy yourself mentally, impacting you physically, and it's just downhill from there. And I know for myself, I've mentioned actually in a recent video how any time that I've went to look at even the pardon process, it's weird because my brain just shuts down. I just completely shut down, and I feel myself physically shut down. And I realize it, and I think to myself, what's wrong with you? I'm diagnosing myself. I see the symptoms. It's like, okay, let's just get through it, and I just can't. And one of the signs that I do have of this is my simply going over and over the past 10 years. And actually, just, maybe there's somebody new watching this video. The first impact of post-traumatic stress was in December of 2013, when the female told me about this, some sort of investigation with regards to her, and how she told me. And I just remember my brain just kind of short-circuited a little bit. And I wouldn't say that I was consumed by it, but I was definitely on a mission now, because now I'm dragged into whatever was going on personally, and it really impacted me. So really, that was the first blow to me, December of 10 years ago. And then the event of May 4th, 2013 shattered me. And I remember the summer of 2013, I couldn't even put a sentence together. Everything was so surreal, and I remember describing everything. The colors were so vibrant. Every sound was so crisp you can hear the ants walking as a descriptive. And I just remember just being in that state of mind for that summer, just in shock. And then after the May 4th, 2013 event in June, the female, after being threatened and everything else, had filed a restraining order against me, which is completely ridiculous, but whatever. And I remember when I received that, it was just another bang to me. It was just brutal, extremely brutal. So there's 3 major events right there within months of each other that I had to deal with. And then I had, things going on in my personal life, like my vehicle that I was driving at the time was stolen. And just trying to survive. And then because now that I have, no money, I wasn't working and stuff. And I had tried to make an arrangement with the landlord to do some work around the house in lieu of rent. Because of my injuries, I couldn't do that. But luckily, I had a few good friends that had come over and did the work for me, kind of supervised. I did what I could, but it wasn't really that much. They did all the work. And I really, really appreciated their help with that. So there was a lot of things going on for me personally. And then, for example, dealing with my first lawyer and him saying you get what you pay for type of thing. And then over the years, having that hope, okay, well, we have a trial scheduled, it's going to be over, and it's not over. And another court date, and another court date, and then rulings on all the voir dires just kept hammering on me. And, you also had that, well, there was no reason why, for example, I should have been convicted of allegedly assaulting a police officer in obstruction, but they were all on a mission. And then having to deal with the conviction, I remember standing there and then being sentenced and then having to go to jail. And then every weekend just feeling like I was raped, having to go through the whole process and just the environment and everything else. So it was a constant bombardment that added to my post-traumatic stress and the injustice and everything else. And fast forwarding to the realization that the civil suit I wasn't standing a chance, and I seen it coming. And then having to deal with the former senior counsel the city of Calgary threatening my lawyer, and then having to deal with him through the civil proceedings and everything else, and how all that played out with being called names and everything else during the discovery, and him admitting that I'm innocent. So what? You're still found guilty is what he said. So there was a lot of bombardment over the past 10 years that I had to deal with. And that all escalated my post-traumatic stress, and that caused other things that I go through as a descriptive, depression and everything else. And it's going through these mood fluxes and not being able to have a normal sleeping pattern, not being able to sleep. And when I do sleep, most of the time still nightmares with regards to what happened and the injustice and everything else. So really, I just wanted to say to people on the outside who may know someone who's dealing with post-traumatic stress that you have to be really patient, because there's different degrees to it. And quite frankly, and some people have said that I've done really well over the years. In 2015, when I took over my trial, had no choice. I had to deal with the post-traumatic stress and push through and represent myself. And part of why I do the videos is, and I've said this a long time ago in a video, it's somewhat my therapy. And it's not easy to deal with it all, but I think really what has been eating me, especially for the past 2 years, that it's like, it's not over. Something inside was just saying it's not over. It's not over. And I was perhaps even lying to myself, saying it is over. So we'll see what happens over the next few months with regards to everything with the legal proceedings and stuff. And I'm not holding my breath for anything, but I can only pray for a miracle. And that's the only way that this is going to happen, is through a miracle. So anyway, just be patient when there's somebody who's been traumatized, and especially when they've had years of it nonstop. You know, when you just look at, say, for example, a war veteran who's been traumatized. Now, one thing with post-traumatic stress, there are events that trigger it, that cause it, that cannot be corrected. And unfortunately, those people who are dealing with that foundation, they're dealing with that for the rest of their lives. But there's other types of post-traumatic stress that can be fixed by, for example, correcting a wrong. And that is when the true healing comes in. So there's two fundamental causes of post-traumatic stress: events that are beyond any repair, and then there's ones that have a solution. It's just a matter of keep going after that solution. So, and it's not easy to deal with post-traumatic stress. And now that I've been experiencing it more and more, and finding my mind, and I've in my videos at times I've been very frustrated, bitter, and it's come through. And am I going to apologize for that? No. At that moment, that's how I felt, and it is what it is. So it's been a challenge, just for myself, mentally, emotionally, and it's affected my health, the stress. Apparently I've had some microstrokes that affected the left side of my neck and left shoulder, and in my heart, and who knows if it's escalated these other medical things that I have going on. So, but I'm still here, I'm still talking. As I've said recently, I'm not going to be intimidated, and I'm not going to shut up, but I do want to move on with my life, and be able to put all this behind me. And all I do is pray that for vindication, to be exonerated, to have my name cleared of these false narratives about me, these false allegations, and these wrongful convictions against me. And really, that's been my focus. So take what you will from this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people say, when is it going to get easier? When you die.